please, the mic is yours.
Hello. So let me ask you a couple questions. Who likes Ruby? Awesome. Who likes making the world better? Perfect. So I want to invite everyone to come out to Ruby by the Bay. It's Ruby for Good on the West Coast, where we get together and we build software for places that really need our skills but would never be able to afford us. Like think animal shelters, food banks, women's shelters, places like that. Follow us at Ruby for Good on Twitter for more information, and we hope to see you there.
Thank you for your judicious use of time. Anyone else who has up here like to give a, come on up? No, this is just, no, this is just 1 minute. You can't give any slides. You're already on the clock, so you got about 45 seconds left. And you're here.
All right, that's not a problem. So my first slide on the presentation looks like
you only have about 30 seconds left.
Make again. And the idea is simple, that we using tools like Rake, like NPM, and they are not natural when we try to use them for everything. And the thing is that if we use make for that, then it makes things much more simpler, because we have to use multiple technologies. And with make, if you put everything there, it makes everything much more simpler, and it works like a glue for all of your scripts. So give it a try.
Thank you. I'm sorry, that's partially my fault. I wasn't clear. No slides, really no slides. So anybody else would like to move up here?
So making your company more inclusive takes some effort. It's something we've been thinking about at Thoughtbot. And I just wanted to share, we have on GitHub, thoughtbot/guides, a file called Working Together. It includes a checklist for pairing together, and it also includes a printable inclusive meeting guidelines. So I encourage you to print that out, put it in every room in your office, so you can have more inclusive meetings. That's all.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. This is live. My name is Wendy Calderón, and I am a full-stack software engineer and a telecommunications engineer. I recently graduated from a boot camp, and I am here to quickly talk about SQL. I have 2 questions for you. By a show of hands, how many of you are Rails developers? Awesome. And how many of you use SQL regularly? Okay. So in my personal experience, I feel like Active Record used to sort of spoil me. And the reason I say this is because I thought that I was going to be golden just by knowing how to read a SQL query, and I found out that I was wrong the hard way. Long story short, I lost an opportunity that I was really excited about because I couldn't put together a SQL query. I failed the assessment. And after I lost that opportunity, I was really intrigued and interested in knowing why SQL was part of the assessment in the first place. So this is why I started researching, and I found out that not only SQL is the most popular querying language out there, it is also a very profitable skill to have. You could easily have a high-paying career just by knowing SQL. Especially if you are looking to be a back-end engineer, this is a skill that you want to have. So also, SQL has been, okay, so this is not cooperating.
Uh-oh.
Next slide. All right. I can't see the other slide, I'm sorry. I borrowed a computer, I'm really sorry. So this is the other one that I wanted to show. All right, so what I wanted to say is that SQL has been in the Stack Overflow's survey that they hold every year, it has been in the top 5 skills that the developers use ever since they started this survey, ever since they started it. And I want to show you the breakdown, if the computer helps us. Sorry. All right. Okay, thank you. So this is the latest one. As you can see, SQL is in the top 3 skills that developers use. And as I mentioned before, it has been like that ever since this breakdown or this survey started, I want to say like 5 years ago. Also, if you want to learn more about why SQL is so important to developers, I invite you to read my blog post on it. There's the information why learning SQL is so relevant to developers. And also, if you're looking to hire a junior developer that is eager to put into practice this skill and many other skills, look no more, you found her. Here's my information. Let's connect. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chyrelle Lewis, and my presentation is on how Career Karma is changing lives and helping to make tech more diverse. So, what is Career Karma? So the textbook definition of Career Karma is that it's the community of mentors, peers, and aspiring developers that provide like a direction and a blueprint to try to get people to get into tech. You know, just more people that's underrepresented, or just anyone. It'll make it easier for anyone to get into tech. So that's what Career Karma is for. Let's see. Okay, so really, I'm going to give you a little bit of my story just so you can get in context and how it helped me. So pretty much ever since I was little, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a programmer. And life circumstances happened, and I got pregnant at 16, so like I did the responsible thing to get a job. And so and then the job turned into a career, and I was into leadership, and I was successful, but something was missing, and I wasn't satisfied. I've always dealt with logic and systems, and it just what didn't make sense that I was in a career that I wasn't using my abilities to my full potential. So I was like, okay, well, I left that job, and I wanted to be a realtor and everything like that. And then what happened was a couple years ago, I got a divorce, and I was like, what does Chyrelle want to do? And she wanted to be a computer programmer. Remember? She was all happy when she was doing that. She had those goals and dreams, and that's what I always wanted to be. So I was thinking about going back to traditional college, and I saw an ad for Career Karma. And what Career Karma gave me was like, okay, well, you can get into tech, and all you don't have to have any money up front. It was like little risk, and also it was you had a direction, a blueprint, and you had a network of people that was around you to help you and that were doing on the same path that you were. Some were on the same path you were. So I chose to do. So what I did was, I was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and do that. So I took their 21-day challenge on the first day. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Like, what are they talking about? Like, I thought it was kind of smarter than this, and I couldn't understand it. But what happened was I was in a draft group with a lot of other aspiring developers that were on the same path, and they were like, oh, do you want to study? You know, we're going to create this little study group. So at first I was like, no, I'll just do it on my own. But then after a few hours, I was like, okay, let me get into that study group. I got into the study group, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, honestly, because for the next 60 days, I studied overnights with these people, and the study group, and everybody liked the way me and this other guy Chris studied, and so because we were consistent and we made it fun, so we ended up making a study group, and it ended up growing to over 275 people. So that was amazing, and so that just showed me right there. We used to, and we also in Career Karma, we would have like AMAs with top developers like from Twitter or the Grace Hopper app, the developers that made that, and they were just showing us how they broke into tech, and they were coming from untraditional backgrounds. So they gave us inspiration and everything like that. So Career Karma is essentially a network of people that sit there to help you and to provide you guidance and to it's just a community. It's actually like a family. I know a lot of people that are going through the same journey I'm on. I know a lot of developers that are like doing big things in tech, and it's just a network of a family that you can rely on, and that gives you hope that you can possibly do and achieve your dreams. So I attend Flatiron School. They helped me to get into that, and I graduate in January now. So I'm on my way. Like it was a life changer for me, and because I took it seriously. And that's what they're doing. Like, so it is some naysayers out there saying, you know, oh well, they do direct you to boot camps, but a boot camp is going to change my life. Like it's just like that, and it's changing the culture of the development community. It's making it so everyone is represented. So I'm excited for it, and now I can do what I actually want to do, like program. I'm going to be that happy programmer that I always dreamed to be, and I'm excited because you get to learn. You know, I get to the possibilities are endless.
Hi, everybody. My name is LaNice Powell. I was going to tell the Career Karma story, but Chyrelle beat me to it. Right? So we both are also part of the same organization. So it is very true about their impact to people who are definitely career changing. I used to be a teacher in New York City, teaching junior high school mathematics. And one of the things that I definitely found interesting as teaching like algebra and pre-algebra is the correlation between logic and coding and the lack of it in the curriculum now within the New York City mathematical education, because I know when I was in high school, we had to learn about Booleans and true and falsies and things of that sort, and it kind of came back full circle when I started coding, and I was like, wait, but if this is such the foundations of learning inside of this back-end language, why aren't we teaching it to our students anymore, you know, since it is the foundation of this large community that we have now? And so some of the things that make you think, I would say, is just think about the youth and their foundation and how it is so imperative also for curriculum and how they need to be able to have those foundational values so that when they do try to attempt to come in and maybe they can't make it or maybe they feel discouraged, that maybe it's also because they weren't given the tools to make them succeed. And so that's just some of the things that I thought about, and I think it's interesting for other people to know about too. So you have a great day.
No, I can just start now?
Yeah, you can start.
I have to talk really fast. I'm sorry. My name is Jonan. It's spelled like Conan. It starts with a J instead, Jonan. I go by The Jonan Show on the internet because I am kind of a talk show in and of myself. I want to tell you about my American dream and my American dream with Ruby and how it came to be that 4 years ago I bought my first home. Thank you, Mats. So 13 years ago, my wife and I found out we were going to have our first child, right? At the time, I was working 4 part-time jobs. I was a poker dealer and a concierge, and I did corporate training for the Hilton, and I ran my own small business dealing blackjack around the city of Eugene. My wife worked at Blockbuster part-time. None of those jobs include health insurance. So when we found out we were going to have a daughter, I needed to change something. I got a job at a corporation as a car salesman. That was my 5th job. I worked 120 hours a week. My wife quit her job a week before our daughter was born, right? That feels a little bit like swimming up a waterfall. I don't know if any of you have ever done it, but it's pretty hard. Fortunately, I am a very good swimmer, right? Fast forward a little bit. My daughter was here. I worked that job for a long time, and eventually I quit all of those jobs over a single weekend, and I moved out to a casino, and I started working there instead, where they only needed me 50 or 60 hours a week, which was lovely, and I had more time to spend with my family and start another small business on the side, teaching myself how to make brochureware, HTML, CSS websites, right? So I'm working there when I find out that I'm going to have a son, and it's lovely. I'm so excited. I love being a dad. My 3rd child is in the back of the room with my wife right now, and during that process, 3 weeks, in fact, before my son was born, I lost my job at that casino and I lost that health insurance. And because I am a swimmer, and this is what swimmers do, I got on Craigslist and I started looking for more work. And I found ads that said Ruby on Rails engineer, and I turned to my wife one morning, I said, I'm going to be a Ruby on Rails engineer. And she said, what's that? And I said, I have no idea, but they make a lot of money, right? So I moved across the state to work with a man named Kobe. Confreaks is filming this right now. Kobe started Confreaks. Kobe is a giant in the Ruby community. Thank you, Kobe, and thank you, Confreaks, for being here. Because of Kobe, I met Aaron Patterson. I met Eric Hodel. I met Ryan Davis. I met other giants in the community at a time that it was vitally important for me to do that, right? I got into a boot camp at some point, a boot camp that doesn't exist today. It paid me to learn to code, which is the thing I desperately needed at the time. I would not be on this stage had I not been paid to learn to code. It was called Hungry Academy. And Hungry Academy was started by Chad Fowler, who introduced me to a lot of other people. I met Sandy Metz during that code school. Sandy gave us, at Hungry Academy, an advanced copy of her Pooter book. And I went up to Sandy to tell her what a great book she had. And I said, Sandy, I think you'd do really well on the conference speaking circuit. And Sandy said to me, I'm just not sure that I would. I told you so, Sandy Metz. Okay. Fast forward to today. I'm on this stage because I am now on the board of a foundation called Ruby Together. Now, many of you know that name because a couple of years ago, when Ruby Together was first being founded, it was involved in a bit of Ruby drama, right? And many of you don't know anything about that, and that's great because we as a community, we are so over drama, I hope. There used to be a website called rubydrama.com that is not online anymore. I just checked, right? It does not resolve because we as a community, we're all working together towards a common goal, I hope. I joined the board in the midst of that waterfall of Dookie because I knew people on both sides of that argument, and I still know people on both sides of that argument, and that argument doesn't apply anymore, okay? Because the board is there signing the checks now. We hold the purse strings to the organization. Last week, we as a board had to decide which of the 3 projects that was presented to us was going to get funded. We chose SimpleCov. We're going to help SimpleCov be built, right? And we had to make that decision because we lacked the extra $15,000 that we needed to fund all 3 of those projects. We fund projects like RubyMe, where we are paying developers like I got paid. We're paying new early career underrepresented folks to learn to program. $75 an hour to pair up with experienced mentors in the open source community who are helping them learn to program and contributing to open source at the same time. These are good programs. We are working to change the world. We're working for a future where Ruby hockey sticks like it did when I joined. You know who's hockey sticking today is Python, in part because the Python Software Foundation receives $1 million a year from Google alone, which is more than the money that goes into Ruby Together or Ruby Central combined. Okay? So I need your help because when I go walking up and down this hallway at conferences and I talk to every sponsor and I give them this same pitch, they go, something PR Ruby drama? Nah, we're done with that, right? As a community, we don't do drama anymore. What we do is we lift each other up and we build Ruby as a language and we build the community around Ruby as a language so that 20 years from now, Ruby's going to be fine. I'm not suggesting that Ruby is not growing today. Obviously, that is not the case. I'm suggesting other languages are growing faster. And we need to work real hard to make sure that we accelerate our growth curve. Because I got into this industry standing on the shoulders of giants, and now I'm in a position to help the next generation of developers. And I don't want to do that for 20 years. I want to do it for 100 years because I am not a boomer, and I'm not about to burn this planet down on my way out. Thank you very much.
I am. Rob Faldo.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm here to talk to you about filling a gap in the online tutorial market. So who am I? A bit of a recall back to what I just said. I am Rob Faldo. And I am a junior engineer at Simply Business. They're an insurtech firm, and I'm based in the London office. We've also got an office in Boston and remotes from across the globe. Props to them because they sent me and 3 colleagues 4,000 miles across the Atlantic to be with you here this week, which is awesome. And something that you need to know about me, and this is really important, is that I believe that almost anyone can do almost anything. And I think that the people who are successful at something have developed either a conscious or often unconscious process, technique, or habit they formed over many years of lots of trial and error or learning from other people where they've developed an intuition on how to be able to do something. So that's something about me. So how did this all come about? In fact, has anyone seen those tutorial videos where halfway through the tutorial, someone or the person who's leading the exercise will make a mistake? And they'll do something, they'll press run, and they'll be expecting something to happen, and you'll hear the surprise in their voice, and they'll be like, oh God, I wasn't expecting that. And they'll sometimes do something that really frustrates me. What they'll do is they'll pause it, and they'll say, I'm just going to stop here, and then I'll come back once I've solved this. And there's a part of me that's like, I really just want to see, how did you do that? Because as a junior software engineer or somebody who's learning, I would love the opportunity to see somebody who's experienced go through that process and how did they solve that problem? How did they work out what was wrong and then how did they get it to do what it is they needed to do? And that's kind of inspired of what I've been doing here. So here's my idea. I believe that experienced engineers have a conscious or unconscious process for approaching and solving problems. And what I do is I put experienced engineers in front of open source projects, production size projects, real existing projects that they have never seen before. An example, I do it with discourse. So I sat down with an engineer that works at Simply Business in front of the massive Rails app discourse. And then what do I do when I get them in front of it? They've never seen it before. I ask them to add a feature. And I say, it's a code base that they've never seen before. They've never navigated it. They don't know how it's structured. The most they know is that it's a Rails project and it's using Ruby. And I ask them to add a feature. And then I do something really annoying to them, but very helpful for what I find for myself and hopefully for other people, is that I continually stop and ask them questions. I don't let them take for granted anything that they've developed over those years. I'm like, hey, experienced engineer, how did you do that? Before I even let them into the code base, before I even let them look at any code, I say, what's going through your head? How are you going to approach this? What is it when you get access to the code base that you'd want to know to be able to make your first move? What kind of things are you thinking about how you need to add this feature? Are you breaking it down? Is there something that you do or don't want to do? And I ask them questions as they go through. And I found out really interesting things, like often they'll guess. And like they'll look for things, they'll be like, oh, do you know what, I've worked in code bases where this is usually in a header file, or this is like usually this or usually that. And as an unexperienced and junior engineer, this is incredibly useful to be able to tease apart and unearth some of these intuitions and some of these processes that these experienced engineers have gone through. So then I film it, and I put it online, and hopefully that helps other people. Some feedback so far, so I popped it on Reddit, and I got about 5,000 views for the video. I won't go through all them because I haven't got time. The TLDR is the bottom right one, which is, well, okay, dude, that was hella cool. So that's pretty much summary of the rest of it. And then, how can you help? I know that you're sitting there wondering this. So one is that you can do one with me. So I am looking for people who are interested in this. It'll be about an hour, 2 hours maximum of your time. You don't have to do any preparation. In fact, you won't be able to because you won't know what you're doing on the spot. And we can do it remotely. So that's something that I would love for you to get involved. I'm going to be around the conference today and tomorrow, so feel free to grab me, or I'll have my contact details in the end. The other thing is you can share this video with people that you think might benefit from it. Juniors in your team, other people within the community, that would be fantastic. And then also, if you've got any ideas of where I can share this content or anything I can do to help develop this, I'm really keen to get people's feedback, so I've not done something that I'd like to scale before. And obviously, you don't need me to do this. If this is a format that you find interesting and this gives you a bit of an idea of how you might approach something like this, please do it. I've learned so much. So if you're sitting there and I've got years, just over a year's experience, if you're sitting there similarly and this sounds like something that's interesting, it's a really good process for learning yourself. So here's my contact information. You've got also the videos that I've got at the bottom. Again, if you want to grab me and I can link you them or whatever, that's fine. I've also got links to our company if you're interested in that as well. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Cole. I work at the Princeton University Library, and this is my first RubyConf. I didn't realize these talks are not usually technical, so mine is. So I Git with confidence. So Git is a really powerful tool, and you do a lot with it. I do stuff with it every day, and I am the biggest problem with Git because I make mistakes all the time. And what I realized is that not everybody knows how to get over those mistakes, and so that's what this talk is about. So one mistake I make, not weekly, but maybe monthly, is I'm asked to squash commits, and I've made this wonderful feature called Hello. I bet you can guess what it does. And I've changed 2 files. I've got a test, and I've got a class. And I put those in multiple commits, and somebody went on my PR, me, and said, hey, why don't you squash those, because they're kind of nonsensical, and if you notice, I didn't even try to, but I typoed in my commit message too. And so I go, okay, I'm going to use my git log, I'm going to count my commits, I'm going to git interactive rebase with 4, because I've counted 4, and I'm going to squash, 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 and force push. And whoa, wait a second, didn't I just tell you this commit had 2 files changed? And now I've got 4. Uh-oh. Now what? I take a look at the git log, and I realize that I squashed all the way into the previous commit.
I've done it lots of times. I'm going to do it again. Thank God for Git reflog. It comes to the rescue. Most people know that Git creates a hash for every commit that you make, but it also creates a hash for every change that you make on your repository, and that's what's in the Git reflog. So if you're looking at the reflog, you can see that the top is now, where I'm in my lovely, horrific state. And what you don't always realize is that some of the commands that you make on the keyboard actually have multiple commands. So if you look at rebase, it's actually five commands. See, I make mistakes all the time. And you can look down through and see here that this is where the rebase started. Rebase is actually based on how many commits you squash. So if you squash 3 commits, you get 5 changes. If you squash 5, you get 7. It's however many you squash plus 2. And so I can then see my start. What I usually look for is the start, not necessarily how many commits I've squashed. And I see this reference that says, hey, this is where you were before you made your horrific mistake. So I grab that and I cut and paste. And I git reset hard to that. And now I am back. I am in business again. And I'm going to pay attention this time. Really, I am. And I'm going to rebase, and I'm going to only squash twice because that's what I should have done the first time. And now I've got my wonderful PR. It's got 2 files changed, and it's got 1 commit. So I Git with confidence because I can time travel with Git reflog. Thank you.
All right. Hello, my name is Daniel. I work for Google Cloud. I just wanted to spend a few minutes asking everyone a question. Can we do better than Rake? Can we do better than Rake? A lot of us use Rake, but is it the right tool for the job? Now, Rake was originally written by Jim Weirich. He designed it as a Ruby reimagining of the make utility, which is typically used to build C programs. So we have a Ruby version of make. What does that mean now? Make works like this. You declare targets. You declare what they depend on, and you specify how to build them. So it's a declarative system built on file-based dependencies. Now, this is great for C compiling. And as we heard earlier, Make has at least one serious fan in the Ruby community here. But Rake works the same way. Here's an equivalent Rake file for compiling that same C program. But Ruby works differently from C. You generally don't compile individual files based on dependencies. And as a result, today, we actually seldom use Rake for what it was designed for. Instead, usually our Rake files are they're collections of scripts, right? Scripts for running our tests, scripts for running our CI, for populating databases, all those kinds of things. Now, you can do these things in Rake, and it's easy. There's an example. Just like you can do it in a make file, but it's actually not what Rake was primarily designed for. So what are the repercussions of this? Well, for one, our Rake files tend to get out of control. This is the Rake file for an open source project that I contribute regularly to. Don't expect to read it. Just look at the minimap. That minimap is actually only about half of the Rake file. This is an enormous Rake file. And you can break that up. You can separate it out into several Rake files, maybe break out some classes. Rake doesn't really go out of its way to tell you to do that or make that easy for you. And that's not all. Have you tried passing command line arguments to a Rake task? You can do it. You can do it. It's not pretty. And again, it's because Rake isn't designed for this. It's not designed for scripts that can take arguments. So it's kind of bolted on after the fact using an interesting syntax. So I wanted to ask the community, are we happy with Rake? Or are there any alternatives that could serve us better? There are. One possibility is Thor. These days, Thor is usually used to create standalone executables. But it also lets you write Thor files, and the Thor binary can be used in the same way that Rake is. So you can use Thor. Run file is another alternative that I just recently came across. I've also been working on an alternative myself. Toys is a Ruby command line tool that I wrote a couple of years ago, and is actually not intended for this. It was a tool that was meant to help me manage my personal workflow scripts. All these dozens and dozens of Ruby scripts that I would accumulate over the years just to help me do my job. But I discovered at one point that this tool could also be used as an alternative to Rake. So unlike Rake, you have tools like these that are optimized for writing scripts, for writing command line tools. So they might provide those kinds of features, things like real Unix-style command line arguments, flags, things like creating a help screen for you automatically, maybe integrating with your terminal, providing input and colored text, maybe things like tab completion. What they don't do is task dependencies. But you know, I suspect that we're using the dependencies features of Rake less and less these days. It's more typical best practices to have your CI/CD pipeline handle those sorts of things. So in general, can we do better than Rake? For many cases, I think it's well worth investigating alternatives. And there are these, and there are certainly others that I haven't found. Maybe some of you know about some of them. If you'll indulge me plugging my own tool for just 40 more seconds, I've been gradually replacing the Rake files in my own projects with Toys files, just kind of as an experiment to see how it works. It's been working well enough now, well enough that I kind of wanted to take this chance to bring it out to the community and see what we thought about these questions. Rake versus something else. So if you're interested in checking out Toys, here's the info. I will leave it up there for 15 more seconds while we are just awkwardly silent so that you can.
Hi, I'm Hostin Hones. I work at Ad Hoc. We play with Hanami in production. If that interests you, come talk to me, come talk to us. I'm going to talk to you about currying with keyword args today, or quargs and the curry method. Query is a gem I wrote to play with quargs and curry. So currying, what is it? Quick example. Let's say we have a function that adds two numbers together. We have our add function. Say we want to make a function that just adds 2 to any number. So now we curry the function and we partially apply 2 to the first variable. The first argument a is 2. So now add 2 always adds 2 to anything. Now we can call add 2 on 1 and we get 3. By the way, I'm using dot syntax, but same as call. The point of currying is to partially apply a function. So if we're currying with a function with args, right, a lambda, a proc, or a method that you pull off, right? So we have our foo, and it's got all kinds of different args on it, and I call foo.parameters, and I see, A is required, B is required, C is optional, X is the rest of however many you want to pass in. If I curry that and call parameters, then it all just turns to rest, because it's just going to return function after function after function until I've provided all the required arguments. Now, if I have a function that takes quargs, then it kind of works the same way, right? This is really similar. I have required A, required B, optional key C, key rest X's, and I curry it and I get rest, which is a little weird because you'd think maybe I would get key rest, but I don't. We'll get to that. So if I try to curry this function though, and then I partially apply, and I pass A in as 1, I get missing keyword B. So to me, this is fundamentally broken. I can't use this. I can't partially apply. So with query, what you do is you just call bar.query instead, and you pass A equals 1, you get a function back, and that's a function I can pass B to, and it'll resolve. Or I could even pass them back in the opposite order. I could call B first and A second, and anyway, it works the way you think it would. Great. Okay, so here's a little bit more of a real world example. Say I want to hello world. So I write a greet function, and it takes a greeting and a name, and it just spits it back out. Right, so I pass greet hello as the first argument and world, and I get back hello world. Good so far. Now I want to greet everyone with hey. I only want to say hey. I know I just always want to use hey all the time. So I curry it, and I partially apply hey as the first parameter. And then I greet with hey.world, and now we have hey world, right? But what if I want to greet all of you? What if I only want to greet RubyConf and I want a function for that? I can't use this function as it's written because of the order of the arguments. We can only apply arguments in order. So I would have to rewrite the function and flip the arguments or something. With keywords, with quarks, I can write greet with greeting and name as keyword arguments. Looks the same, returns the exact same code inside the function. And now I can greet RubyConf is a function that is queried of greet, and I partially apply name, the second parameter, to it. So now I have a greet RubyConf function, and I can greet you with whatever salutation I would like. Well, hello there, RubyConf. So this gem is a proof of concept, but I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you, how should Ruby handle currying with keyword args? I showed you a way that I consider broken. If you disagree, I'd love to hear why, or if I'm misunderstanding something. Raise your hand if you want it to work in the broken way. OK, great. I'll take it. Perfect. So anyway, here's my gem. I'd love to have your feedback. If you, I got your votes down, so I'm going to plug this away. I mean, Ruby is an open source language. We can make it work however we want. Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Braulio Martinez. I'm a software engineer. I've been doing Ruby for the last 10 years. I'm part of CEDACode. I'm a founder of CEDACode. We're a small team of engineers strongly skilled in Ruby that help all the companies grow in size and expertise. We do a lot of open source, and among those efforts, we have done the gem for WebAuthn in Ruby to do all the server-side work. We still maintain that, and it's growing a lot, so I'm going to talk to you about that. So if we talk about what it solves a little bit first, any system probably the first authentication that comes up to mind for everyday use system, it's probably passwords. Passwords are really prone to many kinds of attacks. For example, brute force or phishing attacks. They also are really bad UX for users because they forget about it. They need to pick strong ones, etc. And actually, 81% of all hacking-related breaches were actually a consequence of stolen passwords. You may think, okay, but I can put a second-factor authentication that will solve everything. For example, SMSs or Google Authenticator. They are also really prone to many kinds of attacks, for example, phishing as well. And actually, 28% of all users use some kind of second authentication factor, which is pretty lame. If we go through a quick example of phishing or play attack, let's say, for example, I click on a button that takes me to log in through Google. This sounds pretty legit, so I'll go ahead and pull all my information. I even use Google Authenticator for it. But if you take a really good close look, what you have just done is giving all the information needed for an attacker to replay that into actual Google in the next 30 seconds, given this is a fake .google account. WebAuthn, for me, is a standard that defines a set of rules for APIs to enable users to strongly register and authenticate on web applications using public key-based cryptography. And the guys that created this were the W3C and the FIDO Alliance. And the FIDO Alliance, it's integrated by many companies. But the ones that were involved in this standard development were all these big brands you see right there. The spec is a big book, hard to understand, but I can sum it up really quick in these three things. The WebAuthn credential is just a wrapper around good old-fashioned public-private keepers, like the one, for example, we use in SSH, but with the particularity that they are scoped to just one website. The three entities, they are well-defined. The authenticators, which are the ones on the left, are the user devices, for example, security keys or the fingerprint of a scanner of my phone. The web browser, the client, sorry, which are the web browsers, and the relying party, which are the web servers, in our case, Ruby ones. To take out, let's check this example. This is GitHub. GitHub already supports WebAuthn as a second-factor authentication. I'm going to use the Touch ID of my Mac to authenticate that and to use that as a second factor. There are a lot of code, not a lot of code, but if you actually go to do this yourself in the server side, you're going to have to implement a bunch of code with more than 15 steps of validations. Many of them are cryptographic validations, or you can opt to use our gem. If you do that, you will need to configure that origin. It's really important to actually stop phishing attacks. If the register flow, is going to look like this in your Ruby server. That's the register action. You grab what the browser gave you. You instantiate the credential class with that. After that, you verify it, and you store the public key next to the server, the user. The authenticate method action is pretty similar. Instead, you need to pass the stored public key to the verify method. The wins we get from this, it's no brute force attacks are possible. We are storing public keys, no passwords, so there's no sensitive data in your servers. There's no possible phishing, and there's no possible man-in-the-middle attacks. This is how it looks like in terms of which browsers support it right now. Safari is quite red, but it's actually not that bad. They are already implementing it for security keys. It's already working in the beta versions for most of them. A lot of applications implemented WebAuthn already. So this is quite the list. They are all using it as a second factor right now. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Hi. So my name is Gonzalo. I'm a Rubyist. Okay, yeah. I love Ruby. I've been doing it for a long time. I also love working on gems, doing gem development. I'm currently maintaining the Rakatech gem, so if you use it, you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. I also work at CedarCo as Braulio. Updating gems dependencies. So how do we update gems on our apps? Of course, we use bundle update or some bot doing the bundle update for us. So kind of a couple of questions. So how often do we do it? How aggressively do we go for the last version? Or do we do patch level first and then a bit more? How many gems do we update at the same time? Do we do all at once? Just run bundle update and do everything? For me, doing that's a bit too risky. So do we do it once at a time? Maybe too tedious. So is there any middle ground? So this is how I do it. Maybe you find it helpful in some way. So we prioritize everyday task. So why not prioritizing updating dependencies? So first, I try to focus on security. So I kind of prioritize this task by splitting those dependencies that are known to have a vulnerability and those that don't. So that's the first way to split. Then I try to further split by risk. So for example, if we have a gem, Rails, and Puma, and we have a Capybara on test, one way to split this and in terms of risk is what's more risky to affect our production, our application in production. So of course, updating gems that are used on production is more risky. So we can make a split between the non-production gems and those that are used on production. So further splitting. For the ones on production, I further split between the patch level update, the minor and the major. So my prioritization is mostly by evaluating value that you get over risk in a way. So how do I do it? Fixing vulnerabilities. I use bundle audit. If you don't have it, you install it. You get that new command for subcommand from bundler, and then you get a list of all the vulnerabilities from your gem file, and you can update with that command each of the dependencies that are vulnerable. And I commit those right away, like fixing the vulnerabilities. Then I jump into the non-production gem dependencies by using this command by only filtering the test and the development dependencies from the gem file. And the rest will be kind of the production dependencies. So then I use these three steps for first the patch level updates, the minor, and the rest, which is the most risky one. So that way, this encourages progress. I think it puts security first and kind of I feel like I'm managing the risk in a way. So if there's one takeaway I want to leave you is that we can split and prioritize these tasks by evaluating the value over the risk of doing each of the parts. So you can have the long version in our company blog, which is right there. So thank you, and thanks for listening, and thank you to the bundler team for all these options.
Hello, my name is Rohaa Mendon, and I work for Truka, and Truka is currently a sponsor of this year's RailsConf. And today I'm going to talk about the hackathon project that my team worked on during our company's hackathon event earlier this year. So our team basically worked on a project where we actually collected real-time driving stats from a car and synced it all the way into AWS. The basic premise of this is, the basic motivation behind this project was that Truka is primarily a car shopping and pricing site. But the thing is, once consumers buy their car, they don't revisit the site for the next purchase cycle. That can be anywhere between 3 to 5 years. So we were thinking, like, what can we do where we can re-engage the consumers immediately after purchasing the car? So this is one where we actually collected real-time driving stats, and we would we crunch the numbers and present it in a nice fashion. So what we did was, like, we built a dashboard that basically, after collecting real-time driving stats, displayed the vehicle information, the car's health, the fuel level, the mileage, and like the average miles, speed, and RPM, and the timestamp when the website was synced. So to run through the implementation details, we picked a car. So we used a Honda Sedan, and we purchased a Bluetooth, an OBD2 device. They come as cheap as $10. This is the device actually plug it into your car, where you can issue commands and get data out. And this is like a small GIF where you can shows to you where the OBD2 port is located. And then what we did was that we paired the device with the phone's native Bluetooth connectivity. In this case, we used the Google Pixel 2. And then we built an Android app. And this was, for us, it was new, but it was simple enough, where we actually, because the library is already available in Android code base, where using the Bluetooth manager, we actually looked up the device by name. Then we generated a socket out of it to connect. And then we started issuing commands. So this is all multi-threaded. And for example, like the command that we used in this case was 01, 0C, 0D, and 2F. That basically means show current data, show the engine RPM, show the vehicle speed, and the fuel tank level. And this is the raw response that we got back from the device, from the car. And in that case, and this is in hex, and there are calculations where it tells you like how to convert the hex into an actual integer. But during the course of this project, we realized that odometer is not actually exposed by the odometer value is not exposed by the odometer port. So then we pivoted to computing the distance traveled by collecting GPS coordinates at regular intervals. And this is like a small demo where we built a simple Android app with few fields. And as you're driving, it shows that the values were updating. Now the thing is, now we have the data on the phone. Now how do you get into AWS? So in that case, we use the different AWS resources. In this case, we use Cognito. Cognito basically provided credential management. So in this case, to get going for the hackathon, we connected as an anonymous user. And we linked that incognito to a Kinesis stream. So we had a Kinesis stream with one shard. And then we used Lambda. And in this case, this was actually held in February, and we used, at that time, in the year before, then AWS announced that they had Ruby support for Lambda. So we ended up using Ruby as our Lambda in this case, where we fetched the data, and then we wrote it to S3. And from here, you can see from the logs, like all the data was getting streamed in from the phone into via Kinesis. And then we ultimately ended up writing it to Redshift. And we also set up communications, IAM permissions along the way. And then here you can see this is a sample code with how we actually wrote the data that we collected into Kinesis. We ended up using the Android AWS SDK. And this is the dashboard that we built, like where we show the vehicle information and the data that we collected. And our stack is, our front-end stack is React.js running on Node. And our backend is the Rails app backed by Postgres. And we built a simple JSON API that accepted a win and returned the data to power the page. And this was our architecture, where you can see that the car, we connected to the OBD2, built an Android app, uses Cognito to connect to Kinesis, into Lambda, into S3, and then to Redshift. And this is our main consumer application, which fetch the data and present it to the user. And in the end, our team actually won the most creative award. Thank you.
My name is Emily Giurleo. I'm a software engineer at MongoDB. Excuse my lack of slides. I did not know you could make slides. I'm going to talk to you about hiring junior developers the first 90 days. And the reason I wanted to give this talk is because I've had some experiences that I think are probably not unique. So first I wanted to ask, who has had a junior development job in their lifetime? Who has had the experience of starting a junior development job and finding that the expectations for your performance were not clearly defined? Okay, so like I suspected, not unique. So I wanted to talk about some things that I think could really help improve the experience of starting a new job, especially as a younger or like more inexperienced engineer. So I think the first thing is obviously you have to set expectations with a junior developer. Shocking, I know. And these expectations have to be based on something. So I think that recruiters and hiring managers do a really good job at looking at someone's resume before they hire them, but not after they get hired and when they're about to start their job. How many people have started a job only to be asked to do like some crazy server restart that they never claimed to know how to do without any support, right? Like, this shouldn't be happening. So the first thing you should be doing is looking at their resume, seeing what they claim to know, and then saying, based on this information, how long should it take them to ramp up on our stack? They don't know your stack, you know your stack, and you've seen people ramp up on it before. And then, of course, you should communicate this to the engineer. Do not keep it in your head, because they're going to be wandering around not knowing what your expectations are. So then the second step, I think, is like giving feedback based on these expectations. So the first guideline, I think, is for negative feedback. Don't necessarily wait for your next one-on-one, right? The first 3 months go by really quick, and sometimes you have one-on-ones once a week. Sometimes it's like once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. That's not that many meetings for you to course correct. And also, the way that your new engineer is interacting with the team is really going to stick in the minds of the rest of the team. Why would you let them wander around making mistakes that you could correct for them and making a bad impression for themselves when they might just not know? So give feedback like quickly, casually, and often, and probably they'll just like appreciate it and it won't be a big deal. Also, don't be afraid to give positive feedback. I feel like every job I've started, I've wandered around not having received any feedback, and only to realize a couple weeks later, oh, I was actually doing a pretty good job, just nobody told me. So don't be afraid to pull them aside and say, hey, you did a really good job on that, or like, hey, I didn't expect you to be able to do that. That was really cool. And I'm sure that'll like make their week and give a little like pep in their step. So lastly, one more thing. Make sure that when you give feedback, your actions match the words that you're saying. So for example, if a junior developer is worried that they're like taking too long to ramp up, and you say, no, no, don't worry, you're just getting started, then don't go and take away some of their project because they're taking too long, or let your teammates like give them other feedback. So make sure that your team is in agreement about what the expectations are so that you don't accidentally do something that goes against what you've been saying, because that can really erode trust, and I think that that damage is going to last for a really long time. So the last step is probably eventually they're going to get a performance review, and you're going to start promoting them, giving them raises. There should be nothing that's surprising in that performance review if you follow the first 2 steps. And I think that's generally a good rule for any employee. So you've done all the work already, and now you can just reap the rewards of someone who is successful in doing a good job. So just to wrap this up, you could say a few things here, I think. One, this sounds like a lot of work. To that I say, if you're getting paid the big bucks to manage people, I have no pity for you. The second thing is, that sounds like my employee is very insecure and that I have to coddle them. That sounds like a problem. And sure, that might be the case, but you have to realize that people come from different backgrounds, and not everyone is made to feel like they belong in a certain space. Maybe you don't think it's your job to go that extra mile to ensure that your new employee knows what's expected of them and knows exactly how to succeed. But if they haven't been told how to do that elsewhere, then they are going to fail. And if your company has problems retaining women, retaining minorities, retaining younger talent, then you have to just look back at this process and acknowledge that you haven't been doing the work to retain those employees. So in the interest of making tech safer for younger people, for people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different races, different genders, I think setting expectations and giving good feedback to junior employees is the most important thing you can do. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris, and I want to talk to you about this business. So have you ever constructed a hash like this, where you have a variable called name, for example, and then you have the key, which is the same word? So in this situation, I've got name, I've got email, and then in the hash, I've got name, name, email, email. It just doesn't seem very dry to me. Well, guess what? It doesn't have to be like this. You can do this in JavaScript. So in JavaScript, they call it the object literal property value shorthand. And what this means is you can construct an object, it's called in JavaScript, with the same key as the variable that you're using. So in this situation, I've got name and email, and it works out that it's a name because of the name of the variable's name, and the email is email. It makes sense. What if I told you there was a world where we could do this in Ruby? And that world happened 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, somebody brought this up, they logged a call about it and said, hey, why don't we do this in Ruby? And Matt's at the time said, I'm not so sure. And that's fair enough. There was all sorts of different issues about it, and ES6 was quite new back then. And then somebody else last year actually said, hey, let's investigate this again. So then Matt's admitted that he doesn't use JavaScript at all, and he says that it's most useful in JavaScript when destructuring. He also said, I'm open to hearing your opinion. Now, destructuring in terms of what it's like in JavaScript is quite handy, and it is tricky. I can imagine it would be tricky to work this into Ruby. And how it works in JavaScript is you can do this neat thing where you can kind of reach into an object and take something out and put it into a variable. Now, back then, 4 years ago, a guy called Giurleo Meda created a patch to actually try this out in Ruby. And then last year, Ignatius Reza actually did another patch to do it again. So I thought, I want to try this out in Ruby. Now, I just want to do a heads up to the Ruby, the people who work on the core team with Ruby. They work with some crazy C code, and I'm so glad that they do. So I had to look at this code because I thought, I might try and figure this out. And it's tricky, and it's like it makes me realize that they code C so we don't have to. When Giurleo did this years ago, it was working for 1.9.3, and I wanted to work, this was last year I did this, so I had to actually change the code so there weren't any issues. So I created a little patch. Now, I called it imp hash because I didn't know what this thing was called last year, and I thought it was kind of like an implicit hash. So, and I don't recommend curling random URLs off the internet, but if you want to try, then try this out, and you can download the patch. And then RVM has this cool little function where you can take a patch and you can combine it with the build process. So you use --patch to bring that patch into your own version. But you don't want to just mess with your own Ruby 2.5.0, so you can actually use that switch -n to give it a namespace. And then what you can do is use RVM use Ruby 2.5.0 -imp hash to try this out yourself. Now, I did this last year on Ruby 2.5. It's no longer compatible with Ruby 2.7. I didn't want to go through the pain of having to fix the merge issues again. So what that means is now, if you follow that along, if you manage to use your if you manage to memorize that somehow, that means you can actually create a hash like I was talking about. In this situation, I've got a variable called name, a variable called email. I've even got a method called business. And then I've constructed a hash with just name, comma, email, comma, business. And it's worked out that the key is name, and email, and business, and it's constructed a hash for you. If you want to try this out yourself, you can go to my website, thechrisoshow.com, and it's got all the instructions on there on how to do it. And have fun. Thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm Ian, and I'm here to talk about how to get organic pairing with process. So pair programming, which is like, you take a bunch of developers and you throw them together on one computer and hope they can figure things out and make some awesome code together. And it's awesome most of the time, but I'm not here to talk about when it's awesome. Sometimes it's not awesome. Sometimes you get, like, the cat just takes the keyboard too much of the time because Winnie's just a hoggy developer, or you're just not feeling heard in the conversation, or you're having disagreements about, like, no, we should use tabs instead of spaces, and so how can we right, this is a human problem. We're like working together and we're hopefully working with each other, but sometimes that doesn't happen. What's a way we can kind of like talk about and navigate that? And I think that's where a process can, like, even though it's like a human thing, it's conversation. Having some structure around what we're doing can help really move the conversation forward. And it also helps because, like, some of the issues, like keyboard hogging, for example, can be originating from like power dynamics or things not recognized, like because of senior junior development issues or historical things. And so it's important to kind of make it part of the flow, to make it not personal, to be like, hey, I have that carved out time to, like, I'm driving this portion of the time, then I'm navigating this portion of the time, and having mechanical processes to check that back and forth can make it not personal. It's like, hey, your time's up, we need to switch so I can be driving. And it also can help to create emotional safe space, because one of the things that I think really is awesome about pairing is that you can get continuous feedback, and so the process can help make sure there's that space for that. And so part of that, right, is being able to have a good common shared language, and that was like my team at Amada at the time was having trouble with that. We started just trying to make sure we understood and had the same shared language and vocabulary. And another thing we did that was really awesome was we made like a pairing checklist, which kind of like helps it down before we even start pairing. Let's just think about how we're going to get into pairing. So that, which kind of like highlights of that included the fact that like making sure you had a pre-check-in where you just kind of saw how you're feeling, because you might not just be at the top of your game today, and being able to at least recognize that helps to set you up and prepare yourself for like the next part of the space. And also being able to explicitly build in when the pair retros are happening was, I think, really a neat thing that comes out of that. But I tried to move that process to BackerKit where I work now, and there was a little bit of like, I don't know, like this is a lot. And so part of that process is being able to really get buy-in from who you're working with. And so part of that is like being like, okay, so maybe there was problems at the old organization. Like there was like issues where pairs would run off and do code on their own and then come back without like work being done. And so there was like explicit stuff in the old pairing checklist to make sure that didn't happen. Well, that's not really a problem when you have 3 developers. You can't really run off with the code because you're just constantly pairing. Then revising it to instead focus on the problems that my team is currently focused on helped to really make sure there was still that buy-in and still get that value out of those processes. So that ended up with this kind of revision where we're kind of a bit lighter and really just focusing on the pre-pairing part of the process, and then like making sure we had mini retros coming through, and we're still working on it because I think we're not doing as many miniature retros as I'd like. So trying to figure out like how can we incentivize that better. And yeah, woo.
Hi, my name's Noah Gibbs. I work for AppFolio. They pay me to do stuff and be here. Thank you, AppFolio. I'm here to tell you that there's no such thing as knowing your computer or coding all the way down to the bottom. I'm an old programmer in the sense that I've been doing this a long time, and I'm supposed to tell you that you should learn C or C++ or Rust, some language that works like the computer works, so that you understand how your computer works. I'm supposed to tell you to write code that messes with the hardware, like an operating system, so that you understand how an operating system works. And I'm supposed to tell you to write in high-performance languages so that you can write fast code. And the reason you should do all three of these things, they're all really the same thing, is because you should know the lowest levels of the computer. You should know it all the way to the bottom. No. No, no, no. But let's talk a little about why not. Don't learn C early. Maybe at some point, don't learn C early. C is no longer a low-level language. Google that phrase. There's a wonderful ACM paper that will tell you all the ways C is no longer works like your processor. C works like a PDP-11 from 1977, and it turns out some things have changed since then. So if you're learning C to know what the architecture is like, stop. The architecture is not like that anymore. You are wonderfully learning completely the wrong thing. Stop. If you're learning it for the optimization, it turns out all the major stuff in modern optimization, SIMD operations to do a bunch of stuff at once, cache lines and all that. C doesn't do any of that because the PDP-11 in 1977 didn't do any of that. So save your time. Don't write an operating system. I've worked on 2 operating systems professionally and 2 more for learning and stuff a long time ago mostly. If you want to learn the stuff that you're supposed to learn from an operating system like schedulers, great. Schedulers are wonderful. Absolutely do that. Do that in a language that doesn't segfault. Do that in a nice high-level language where you can, because if you write a real, all the way down to the BIOS operating system, you have no applications to do it. You haven't written a modern scheduler. You're not going to learn all of these things because first you have to write the giant constellation of apps. No, writing an operating system is not even the best way to learn about an operating system anymore. You can't, there are useful pieces, but please don't do that for that reason. And never use a high-performance, awkward, annoying language just because. I don't mean never learn it, but inside every gigantic app, there's about 2 pages of code that needs to be fast, and we have foreign function interface. We have C extensions. We have call out to other languages. If you need 2 pages of fast code in a fast language, great. Write 2 pages of code in a fast language and then call to it from your 99-page Ruby app. Write the rest in whatever's easiest. Yeah, using the wrong language the whole time for that is the definition of premature optimization. But the reason you get all this advice is the same. The idea that there's virtue. I'm using the word virtue because as programmers, we've got all the same neuroses everybody else does. We're just deeper in denial. There's virtue in learning about the computer all the way down to the level where it makes sense. You will find that whoever tells you to learn it to the bottom is whatever level they learned. A C programmer will tell you learn it to C because that's all the way to the bottom. An assembly language programmer will grin next to him and say, you learn assembly, you learn it all the way to the bottom. And the hardware designer sitting next to him will just take another drink. Is the lowest level C? Absolutely not. Assembly has all sorts of bugs. Is it assembly? Well, I've worked at NVIDIA and Palm on prototype processors with hardware bugs. Hardware bugs are a thing, and if you read the Danlu, Google Danlu and CPU bugs, I promise it's not just prototype hardware. Hardware bugs are a thing. You don't mostly see them. Error correcting RAM. If there were no errors to correct, error correcting RAM wouldn't do anything. They correct a high percentage of your errors. You know what a high percentage isn't? Is 100. It's leaky abstractions all the way down. There is no point at which the abstractions stop leaking, all the way down to the abstraction that goes when an electron is sort of a particle and sort of a wave, kind of, but not really. There exists no level of human knowledge where the leaks stop. Which means, and this is the best news I have for anybody all day, whatever level of abstraction you're at with all the leaky abstractions, it's the same all the way down. Take a deep breath and feel relieved because the C programmers that have been telling you, I have to learn C because that's the level that makes sense, that's all the way to the bottom. You could learn enough to prove them wrong, but you don't have to. It turns out now you know they're wrong. You will never know it to the bottom. There is no bottom. That's sort of a downer of a note to end on. I mean, I've complained about everything, but I never told you what to do, except you know what to do. When you've got a particular problem, learn the things for that problem. Don't bias extra hard down toward things that look sort of like hardware, but not really. And the people who are telling you to do that because it's the pure right thing to do, you have my permission to ignore them or to send them in my direction. I'll happily debate with them all day, and then you can get back to what you were doing. Thank you very much. There's a longer blog post that's the same thing if you care in the slightest. I understand if you don't. Go out and get better. You folks are the future. Use the past where it suits you. Ignore it where it doesn't. You're doing it right. Follow your instincts. You're doing it right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dave Aronson, the T-Rex of Codosaurus LLC. And over the past few years, I've been slowly learning Elixir, as so many Rubyists do. And one of the strange things about Elixir and so many other languages, especially the ones that use immutable data, is that the tradition seems to be to prepend to the beginning of a list rather than append to the end of it like we're used to. And I was wondering why, and somebody finally gave me an explanation that kind of clicked for me, and I'm going to share that with you. The way lists are usually implemented in most languages, especially with immutable data, really boils down to the classic data structure of the singly linked list. And each node has a piece of data and a pointer to the next one, pointer, reference, whatever appropriate for that language. So let's take a look at how appending works under that sort of paradigm with mutable data. First, we have an element, let's call it A. It's got this data of A, and I'm using the convention that its next pointer points down rather than at another node to signify that it's the last thing in the list. In Ruby, this would probably be nil, and C would be null. In other languages, none, nothing, or maybe El Zilterino if you're not into the whole brevity thing. So if we want to append element B, we create it with a null next pointer and then change A's next pointer to point to B. Okay, fine. And same with appending C and D. So far, so good, straight out of the textbooks. But now let's try that with immutable data. I've sort of fast forwarded to where we've already got A, B, and C, and we want to append D. So if we followed the same steps as before, we'd create D with a null next pointer and change C's next pointer to point to D. But you can't do that with immutable data because you'd be mutating C's next pointer. So instead, we have to create a whole new C, let's call it C prime, and make that point to D. But that means that all of the previous pointers, references, whatever, to C are now invalid and need to be updated, such as B's next pointer. So of course, we would just change that to point to C, right? No. Like I said before, you just can't do that with immutable data, so we have to create a whole new B to point to C, and similarly all the way back to the beginning of the list. Now in this case we've only got a few elements, but if you've got a lot, that can take quite a while. So this basically takes the appending of an item from a quick constant time operation to being linearly proportional to the length of the list, however many elements are already there. Worse yet, since that is done for every element you append, then it's effectively multiplied. So rather than being linear, you have linear times linear, which makes quadratic. In other words, it's proportional roughly to the square of the number of elements you're processing. Now let's look at prepending. Now we've got element A with a null next pointer, and create B already pointing at A, and then we have to do nothing. We're done. And likewise for prepending C and D, no muss, no fuss, no mutation, no extra allocation, no garbage creation for later collectation. It's back to a small constant time per item for a reasonable linear time to process the whole list. But wait, there's more. We're not quite done because the list is backwards, but most languages, modern languages anyway, not C, include a way to reverse a list. This does take a little time, but it's trivial and it's only linearly proportional to the length of the list, but most importantly, it's only done once. So rather than multiplying, it's simply added to the other processing of the list. So we stay proportional, and this is a big, we stay linearly proportional, and this is a big win over the quadratic performance of appending with mutable data, and that is why we prepend.
Thank you so much. This clocks in right at 7 minutes, and so huge thanks to whomever said that they would give up their time. My name is DeeDee Lavinder, and I'm a back-end software engineer. This is not my first career, although I have been in this career for about 5 years. But tonight I wanted to talk about brainstorming with introverts. In Susan Cain's book entitled Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, she posits that brainstorming, while very popular, is essentially ineffective. I certainly understand her reasons, and I wholeheartedly believe in collaboration and think that there is a way to improve our brainstorming strategies and make it work for everyone on the team. So group synergy is when a group's achievements surpass even the most qualified individual's potential. Have any of you ever experienced this? It can be kind of magical when it happens. Harvard Business School actually has developed a team exercise to measure group synergy. They call it SSS, which stands for Subarctic Survival Situation. So the context is that your group has survived a plane crash in the Arctic, and you've salvaged some items from the wreck. Each person is asked to rank the items according to most critical for survival. Here's that list of items. And after each person ranks the items on their own, they come together and rank them as a group. Then the individual's ranking and the group's ranking are compared to an expert's ranking. If group synergy has been achieved, the group's ranking is closer to the experts than any one individual. So now how would we expect this to go if the team members who have actual experience and knowledge are introverts? I can tell you, likely not well. So here are some attributes of introverts and extroverts, and you might have a sense of which of these best describes you. And as with most classifications, it's really more of a spectrum. While most people are not on the extreme ends of this spectrum, as a culture, we definitely have extrovert bias. As with most biases, this may be hard to face, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. It is because of these biases that many introverts try to be extrovert pretenders. You know who you are. You force yourself to speak up, you try to be witty, you go to all the meetups, but inside, this is how you feel. I know this feeling. To be clear, introverts are not necessarily shy. Many actually like people. I know I do, just not all of you at once. One-on-one, I could probably talk to you for hours. Consider this list. These are all introverts. They are or have been incredibly successful. They've changed the world in their own way. I promise you, you want to know what the introverts around you are thinking. More than that, you and your team can benefit greatly from all they have to contribute. Of course, you also need extroverts, not trying to leave anyone out. But remember that extrovert bias. I'm not here to convince you about extroverts. We already like them and see their value. Roughly 35 to 50% of us are introverts. That's including those extrovert wannabes. So how do we harness the power of introverts when we're brainstorming or during meetings? They say if you want to know what an extrovert is thinking, just listen. And if you want to know what an introvert is thinking, you're going to have to ask. The processing formula for extroverts is to talk, and then think a bit, and then talk some more. The processing formula for introverts, conversely, is to think a lot and deeply, and then maybe talk a little, and then to think some more. So here are my tips for maximizing input from those quiet thinkers on your team in the context of things that you can do before, during, and after your meetings. Publish your topics early. Solicit questions in advance. Consider anonymity. This gives introverts a chance to do that thinking that they need to do before actually talking. And you might be surprised who contributes if there's time to prepare before a meeting or a discussion. And if you really don't need to know who came up with something, consider letting it be anonymous. You will not be disappointed. Now, this is the most critical stage for successful brainstorming. A committed moderator is interested in everyone's input. They're firm and respectful. They can pivot easily and aren't afraid to take the reins to get things back on track when needed. Establishing ground rules can radically change a group's dynamics. This is a chance to set the stage for broad participation. One person talking at a time is an essential ground rule. Extroverts interrupt. They can't help it. Okay, we can call it interjecting. Soliciting your group for suggestions for the ground rules can help with buy-in, and a committed moderator will enforce your ground rules. I love sticky notes or index cards with pens or pencils. Have people write it down instead of shouting it out. Allow plenty of time. Try answering in the round. This gives introverts a place in line, time to think, and doesn't require interjection. Try using smaller groups within your larger group. You could solicit anonymous ideas from your team about how they'd like to contribute to the discussion before it even starts. Now, I do have a few additional tips for extroverts. Cultivate curiosity. This is code for allow some silence. Silence, at least a small slice of it, is generally necessary for an introvert to even start speaking. Maybe be the third instead of the first to respond in a situation. This will take some restraint. Give everyone the chance to speak once before you speak twice. Maybe even invite an introvert to contribute. Remember, if you want to know what they're thinking, you're going to have to ask. So, of course, I also have tips for introverts. Write your thoughts down ahead of time. This will help you do the processing so that when the time comes, you're ready to say what you want to say. Practice speaking before you feel ready. This is an uncomfortable feeling, and practice will help. Ask for additional time if you need it. And remember that your team will be even better with your contributions. After your meeting, if you have achieved group synergy, you will have that afterglow of a great group discussion that was productive and inspiring and all the things. Remember how introverts keep thinking after the talking? Maybe use an asynchronous doc to capture those follow-up thoughts. Maybe have a second session to build on the first and go even deeper. And finally, reflect. Was group synergy achieved? Are there improvements or adjustments that can be made for the next discussion? Thanks so much for listening.